would be a fun girls' trip in the heart of nature turned into an absolute nightmare for 42-year-old Carol Sund, her 15-year-old daughter Julie, and 16-year-old Silvina Peloso. It was on February 12, 1999, that the three women left for a 4-day vacation near Yosemite National Park. Carol, Julie, and Silvina left their home in Eureka, California, unafraid and oblivious to what was to come. We can only guess at the excitement the three women must have felt as they boarded their flight to San Francisco. Silvina was an exchange student from Argentina. She and Julie had become friends, and the Sunds were very happy to host her. Once they landed, Carol rented a red 1999 Pontiac Grand Prix. They had a lot to do and see, and only 4 days before they were supposed to meet Jens, Carol's husband, back at the San Francisco airport and accompany him on a business trip to Arizona. The women's first stop was Stockton, California. There, Julie took part in a cheerleading contest. After Julie's contest, the three women hit the road again. They arrived in El Portal, California on February 14th. They planned to stay there for a few days to explore Yosemite National Park. They got a room at Cedar Lodge, a resort located only 8 miles away from the park's entrance. The women spent the following day, February 15th, hiking on one of the park's many trails. It was there in the middle of nature that Carol, Julie, and Silvina were safest. Returning to Cedar Lodge for the night turned out to be an awful, unexpected mistake. The women left the park at some point during the evening. They were tired and wanted to unwind before getting some sleep. They had to return the rented car the next day and then meet Jens, Carol's husband, at the San Francisco airport. But in the hands of destiny, their plans were as good as nothing. Once they got back to Cedar Lodge, the group asked for some videos from the lodge's service desk. It was the last time anyone ever saw them alive. What transpired was a horrendous crime that shook America and marred national park history. On February 16th, Jens Sund was astounded to see that Carol and the girls didn't show up at the airport the way they had agreed. Jens was worried enough to contact the police. Then the facts got muddier. It seemed that checkout had been made in advance. The keys were left inside the room and nothing was amiss. But there was no trace of the women, nor of the car Carol had rented. To make matters worse, the rental car company confirmed Carol had never returned the Pontiac. Local police, rangers, volunteers, family, and friends all came together to comb through the park in a desperate attempt to find the women. 2 weeks later, Carol's wallet inexplicably turned up in Modesto intact. Were they even alive? At this point, the situation looked dire. On March 18, 1999, Jens Sund's worst fears became reality. The red 1999 Pontiac was found, tucked away off Highway 108, in the Stanislaus Forest region, a region that locals used as a dumping ground. The car was burned out. Inside the car, authorities made a gruesome discovery: 2 charred bodies which were later identified as Carol Sund and Silvina Peloso. At this point, the FBI got involved. A week later, authorities received a note indicating the location of Julie's body. "We had fun with this one," the note cruelly said. Julie Sund's body was discovered on March 25th near Lake Pedro, in Tuolumne County. The body was severely decomposed, but the cause of death was clear. Julie's throat had been slashed. It took another crime for the killer to be caught. Joey Ruth Armstrong was gruesomely murdered near her cabin. The day before, some witnesses had spotted a blue car parked near the woman's cabin. Police used this information to find Joey's killer, and were stunned to find that all clues pointed to Carrie Stainer, a 37-year-old handyman at the Cedar Lodge Motel, who they had previously interviewed in connection to the Sund and Peloso murders. This time, Stainer confessed. On the evening of February 15th, he held Carol, Julie, and Silvina at gunpoint. He promised he wouldn't hurt them if only they cooperated. He lied. He bound and gagged the women, strangled and shot Carol, then sexually assaulted and killed Silvina Peloso, too. He then brought Julie to the lake, where he sexually assaulted her and then cut her throat. Although Stainer pleaded not guilty to the murders of the Sunds and Peloso, claiming insanity, the judge decided to sentence him to death 3 times, once for each murder. Carrie Stainer is now 62 years old and still alive.
In the serene expanse of the majestic Mont Blanc, a tragedy unfolded. shrouded in mystery and gripping suspense. Adele Melos, a 26-year-old world champion ski mountaineer, was entwined in the treacherous dance of life and death. This is the harrowing tale of how Adele, a symbol of prowess in mountaineering, met her untimely end on the unforgiving slopes. As the sun dipped behind the towering peaks, casting long shadows on the pristine snow, Adele embarked on an expedition that would become her final descent. Little did she know that fate had woven a sinister narrative, a tale that would echo through the icy corridors of Mont Blanc, leaving the world in suspense. The stage was set high above the clouds, where the air was thin and the landscape was breathtaking. Adele, driven by an unyielding passion for the mountains, embarked on an ascent accompanied by a companion, their silhouettes etched against the vast snow canvas. The wind whispered secrets, but the hill held its own. As Adele and her companion scaled the icy heights, their journey was marked by determination and a sense of invincibility. The world below gazed in awe at the indomitable spirit of the champion mountaineer. Yet lurking beneath the facade of triumph, an ominous air clung to the expedition, foreshadowing the impending twist that would send shockwaves through the mountaineering community. The story takes an abrupt turn, plunging into a realm of uncertainty. High above the clouds, Adele and her companion faced a dangerous precipice. The icy winds howled, carrying the weight of an unforeseen calamity. In a heartbeat, the mountain claimed its toll as Adele, the fearless champion, plummeted into the abyss, leaving behind a trail of disbelief and unanswered questions. It was Friday, August 2022, just before 6:15 p.m., when the mountain, indifferent to the aspirations of those who dared to conquer it, claimed its toll. Panoramic view from their vantage point bore witness to the tragic plunge of Adele and her companion. Aiguille du Pain, the backdrop to their final ascent, became an unwitting witness to the somber spectacle. Fellow mountaineers, scaling their challenges in the vicinity, observed the heart-wrenching scene and, overcome by shock, urgently summoned help. The unyielding and silent mountain stood as a stark reminder of the formidable forces dictating life in the alpine heights' rarefied air. The echoes of the fall lingered, and as the rescuers descended to the scene, the mountain held its secrets close, leaving a void that only the icy winds of Mont Blanc could comprehend. The news echoed across headlines, painting a grim tableau of tragedy on Mont Blanc. The world, accustomed to Adele's triumphs, now grappled with the inexplicable demise of a luminary in ski mountaineering. The mountain, though silent, seemed to whisper secrets of its own, concealing the truth behind the chilling spectacle. As the world reeled from the shock, details emerged, each revelation adding another layer to the enigma. Adele's fall was not solitary. Her companion too succumbed to the merciless embrace of Mont Blanc. Once a playground for these daring mountaineers, the Alps now bore witness to a tragedy that transcended the limits of comprehension. Investigations ensued, attempting to unravel the circumstances surrounding the fatal plunge. Yet the mountain remained stoic, guarding its secrets with an unwavering resolve. Speculations swirled like snowflakes caught in a tempest, but the truth remained elusive, hidden beneath the icy facade of Mont Blanc. As the dust settled, Adele Melos's legacy lingered in the hearts of those who admired her indomitable spirit. The ski mountaineering community mourned the loss of a trailblazer, a champion who defied the odds until the very end. Mont Blanc, now a solemn memorial to her courage, stood as a testament to the unpredictable nature of the mountains. In the wake of the tragedy, questions echoed through the valleys, reverberating against the peaks. What unseen force had conspired against Adele on that fateful day? The mystery endured, etched into the very fabric of Mont Blanc, a chilling reminder of the unpredictable and unforgiving nature of the mountains. In the shadow of Mont Blanc's towering peaks, the tale of Adele Melos unfolded, leaving behind a legacy wrapped in suspense and mystery. The mountain, silent witness to the enigmatic saga, held its secrets close, inviting the world to ponder the fragility of life against the backdrop of its icy majesty. As the mountaineering community grappled with losing a champion, Mont Blanc remained an eternal enigma, guarding the secrets of that harrowing day. The frigid winds howled through the jagged peaks of Mount Everest as Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa stood on the icy slopes of the Khumbu icefall. The weight of the load on his shoulders pressed heavily against him, but his weathered face betrayed no sign of strain. Sherpas, an ethnic group native to the mountainous regions of Nepal, were renowned for their expertise in mountaineering. Ngaima Tenjai, at the age of 38, was already considered a veteran in the field, having summited Everest multiple times. The Himalayas, with their towering peaks and treacherous terrain, were home to these resilient people. Sherpas were known for their endurance at high altitudes, physical strength, and intimate knowledge of the mountain landscape. Many of them worked as guides, porters, or support staff for climbers attempting to conquer the formidable peaks of the region. On the 14th of April 2022, Ngaima Tenjai embarked on yet another ascent of Everest. Carrying a heavy load on his back, he traversed through snow, ice, and jagged rocks with the ease of someone who had become one with the mountain. His journey was routine, a familiar task of hauling materials and supplies to Camp 2. His path led him near an area known as the football field in the Khumbu icefall at 17,999 feet above sea level. Despite the Khumbu icefall being one of the most dangerous stages of the South Col route to the summit, the football field was considered relatively safe. Many Sherpas chose this route due to its better conditions. Ngaima Tenjai was part of a group of approximately a dozen IMG high-altitude workers, ferrying loads from Everest Base Camp to Camps 1 and 2. They were preparing to construct the expedition's Camp 2 setup that day. Gears prepared, tasks in mind, the Sherpas ascended with purpose. The initial minutes of Ngaima Tenjai's climb were uneventful, as he advanced with calculated precision. However, as he approached the camp, a sudden wave of nausea engulfed him. He stopped in his tracks, feeling his breathing become labored. Panic set in as his vision blurred, and he found himself alone on the desolate slopes of the mountain. Attempting to press on, Ngaima Tenjai felt increasingly lightheaded. His movements became erratic, and he struggled to maintain coordination. Desperate for help, he looked around but saw no one. Feeling nauseous and exhausted, he sat down, still burdened by his backpack, hoping rest would restore his strength. Time passed, but his breathing became more erratic instead of improving, and the world around him seemed to spin. Collapsing while still sitting, Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa became another victim of high-altitude sickness on the frigid slopes of Mount Everest. His lifeless form was discovered at approximately 4 a.m. local time, a lone figure next to the trail, still wearing the backpack that had been his constant companion. Helicopters soon arrived to carry his remains off the mountain. Initial investigations revealed no signs of illness, falls, avalanches, or trauma. Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa's death was attributed to the silent and deadly high-altitude sickness that claimed the lives of many on Everest. It was ironic that a seasoned guide who made a living guiding others through the most treacherous mountain range on the planet would meet his end doing precisely that. About a third of the deaths on Everest are Nepali guides and porters, underscoring the immense risk they undertake for the dreams of countless paying climbers seeking to conquer the world's highest peak. Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa's story served as a sad reminder of the unforgiving nature of Everest and the sacrifices made in pursuit of its summit. Christopher John Kulish stood on the slopes of Mount Everest, his 62-year-old frame facing the rising sun on the 27th day of May in 2019. The breathtaking ascent unfolded before him, a surreal experience surpassing anything he had witnessed. This moment marked the culmination of a lifelong dream for the American lawyer, to scale and conquer the towering peak of Mount Everest. Having celebrated his 62nd birthday in April that year, Christopher diligently ventured into the formidable challenge. His goal extended beyond merely conquering the highest point on the planet. It was about attaining membership in the esteemed Seven Summit Club. This exclusive distinction was reserved for those rare adventurers who successfully conquered the highest peaks on each of the 7 continents. Christopher's journey, however, was no casual stroll. It demanded years of rigorous training and experience to navigate the treacherous peaks of the world. Yet he was no novice. He was a fit and seasoned climber. Alongside his group, he exuded confidence that they would conquer Everest summit. The ascent proceeded uneventfully. Christopher's group, benefiting from the favorable spring climbing season, made their way up the mountain in nearly ideal weather conditions. Before embarking on the final leg of their journey, they paused at Camp 4, the last camp before the challenging push to the summit, a camp situated within the notorious death zone of the mountain. Perched at around 26,000 feet above sea level, Camp 4 presented harsh conditions characterized by low oxygen levels, extreme cold, and treacherous terrain. Oxygen supplementation was crucial at this altitude, a lifeline for climbers navigating the perilous heights. Camp 4 was a pivotal point in the Everest climb, signaling the transition into the death zone, where oxygen levels dipped critically low, exposing climbers to increased risks of altitude sickness, frostbite, and other life-threatening conditions. Life-threatening conditions would soon cast their dark shadow over Christopher. Following their stay at Camp 4, Christopher's group received the green light to ascend the final challenge, conquering the summit. The ascent proved grueling, testing Christopher's mettle against the unforgiving elements. His body felt the strain of the terrain and weather conditions, the thinning atmosphere exacting a toll on his breathing. Christopher pressed on, despite the fatigue threatening to overwhelm him, determined to reach the pinnacle. At the summit, the group's triumph was perfect. Christopher witnessed the sunrise atop the world, a moment etched deep within his adventurous spirit. Yet this moment of triumph was destined to be short-lived. A subtle unease crept over Christopher as the group descended from the summit. Breathing became a struggle, as if he were trying to draw air through a narrow straw. His experienced companions noticed his distress, and concern etched their faces. Suddenly, without warning, Christopher lost consciousness. Initially attributing his condition to altitude sickness, the group quickly realized they were grappling with a more formidable adversary. The towering slopes of Everest had claimed another adventurous soul. The revelation that followed was both surprising and grim. Christopher's untimely demise was not linked to altitude sickness. Instead, he had suffered a cardiac arrest while descending from the summit. The mountain, indifferent to conquests and dreams, had asserted its dominance most tragically. Despite the loss, Christopher's family found solace in the fact that he had met his end while engaging in what he loved. A climber at heart, he had faced the ultimate challenge and left the world on the heights he cherished. His legacy, etched in the winds that swept Everest, would forever be intertwined with the mountain that tested and claimed him. In the vast shimmering expanse of the Great Barrier Reef, a man whose heart beat with nature's wildest creatures embarked on his final underwater adventure. The world-renowned crocodile hunter Steve Irwin dove into the waters with the same fiery passion and zest for life that had made him a beloved figure worldwide. For Steve, the ocean was not just a vast body of water, but a sanctuary where he felt most alive. On that fateful day in September 2006, the sun cast a golden hue over the sea, reflecting the boundless energy of a man who had dedicated his life to wildlife conservation and education. Accompanied by his loyal cameraman, Justin Lyons, Steve set out to capture the wonders of the underwater world for Ocean's Deadliest, a testament to his undying love for the mysterious marine life. Steve's life was a tapestry woven with adventure, love, and an unbreakable bond with the natural world. His wife Terry, his soulmate and partner in conservation, and their children, Bindi and Robert, were the anchors of his life. Together, they shared a deep, unwavering commitment to protecting the creatures Steve so dearly loved. As Steve swam in the clear blue waters, his eyes lit up at the sight of a magnificent stingray. It was a routine shoot, something he had done countless times, yet every encounter with nature held a new thrill for him. Signaling for one last shot, Steve aimed to capture the stingray's graceful departure. But nature, in all its unpredictability, had a different plan. In an instant, the routine shoot turned into a dire situation. The stingray, feeling threatened, lashed out, its barbed tail striking Steve with a force that no one could have anticipated. Justin, witnessing the horror unfold, sprang into action. The crew's frantic race back to shore was a blur of shock, fear, and desperate hope. Steve, gravely injured yet calm, uttered his final words to Justin, a heart-wrenching acceptance of his fate. "I'm dying," he said, his voice a faint whisper amidst the chaos. Those words, spoken with a heartbreaking calmness, marked the end of an era. The news of Steve Irwin's tragic passing sent shockwaves across the globe. The loss was an unimaginable void for Terry, Bindi, and Robert. The man who was their world, hero, and guiding star was gone. The world mourned alongside them, sharing the grief of losing a man who had brought the wonders of the wild into their lives with unmatched enthusiasm and joy. Steve had always believed that the camera must keep rolling no matter what. It was his way of bringing the unfiltered realities of nature to the world. But the footage of his final moments, a tape capturing the last chapter of an extraordinary life, became shrouded in respect for the family's wishes. Steve's friend and director, John Stanton, faced the agonizing decision of viewing the footage. His resolve that it should never be public was a testament to his deep respect for Steve. The tape was handed over to the authorities, and apart from one copy, all were destroyed. That one remaining copy, the silent witness to Steve's final journey, remained hidden, its contents forever guarded. As the years passed, Steve's legacy continued to thrive. Terry, Bindi, and Robert carried on his mission with unwavering dedication. Bindi blossoming into a passionate wildlife conservationist, and Robert, following in his father's footsteps, ensured that Steve's spirit and message lived on. On the anniversary of his death, the family shared their memories and tributes, each a reflection of the love, laughter, and lessons Steve had imparted. Fans worldwide joined in remembering the crocodile hunter, not just for his tragic end, but for the vibrant life he led. Steve Irwin's story was more than a tale of adventure and tragedy. It was a narrative of love, family, and an unyielding commitment to protecting the natural world. Though tragically cut short, his life was lived to the fullest, leaving behind a legacy that resonated far beyond the television screens. In his family's and fans' hearts, Steve Irwin will be remembered as a hero who lived with courage, laughed with joy, and loved without bounds.
In a tragic turn of events, the tranquil wilderness of Yellowstone National Park, known for its spectacular beauty, experienced a terrifying and mysterious tragedy that shocked an entire population. Amy Adamson, 47, of Derby, Kansas, set out on the Buttermilk Trail in search of a connection with nature's untainted magnificence. What should have been a peaceful communion with nature turned gloomy when she was the victim of an apparent bear encounter, a phrase that sent shivers down the spines of people who loved the great outdoors. The untamed force of a grizzly bear lurking in the park's stunning environment became the story's unexpected protagonist. The mystery surrounding Amy's death deepened with each passing moment, urging one to consider the delicate balance between humanity's quest for adventure and the unstoppable power of nature, forever reminding us that in the wilderness, the line between beauty and danger can blur in the blink of an eye. In a chilling twist of fate, the very same grizzly bear that tragically claimed the life of Amy Adamson in the wilds of Yellowstone National Park met its end in a Montana home, leaving an indelible mark on the ongoing saga of the wild. The hungry grizzly, driven by relentless instinct, shattered the boundary between humanity and nature when it brazenly broke through a kitchen window to steal dog food, even as bewildered homeowners looked on in shock. Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks, facing a dangerous situation, made the agonizing decision to euthanize the bear. But the incident didn't end there. Genetic analysis unearthed a startling revelation. This very grizzly had been the shadowy figure behind a string of incidents, including the fatal mauling of Amy Adamson during her peaceful morning jog along the Buttermilk Trail. As if haunted by a grim legacy, this relentless creature was also implicated in a previous attack near Henry's Lake State Park in Idaho back in 2020. In this incident, the boundaries between the wild and the domestic, between predator and prey, blur into a narrative that is both haunting and thought-provoking. It reminds us that within the heart of nature's grandeur, a powerful, unpredictable force thrives, capable of inflicting both beauty and terror, leaving an enduring mark on the stories it touches. In a heart-wrenching decision, officials had no choice but to take a drastic step, driven by the imperative of public safety. Amidst the wilds of Montana, a poignant narrative unfolded. The somber declaration by the FWP was prompted by the immediate and grave threat posed to the people living in the region by the formidable female grizzly, known for her food-conditioned behavior. As the fateful shot was heard, it was reported that the world of the wild had been forever altered. However, amid this poignant tableau, a glimmer of hope emerged from the heart of the wilderness. Just inches from his fallen mother, a 46-pound male cub was seen standing as a symbol of resilience. Completely oblivious to the enormity of the moment, he was carefully whisked away to the agency's Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, which was known as a haven for second chances. The journey of the orphaned cub had only just begun as he awaited his next chapter, a life that was far removed from the one that had claimed his mother. With a bittersweet promise of renewal, it was reported that he was slated to find solace and a new family at a zoo, where the echoes of the untamed would reverberate in his heart, serving as a testament to the enduring bond between humanity and the wild. In the heart of bear country, where the majestic wilderness of Montana was met by the unyielding beauty of Yellowstone National Park, a sad tale of resilience and tragedy unfolded. Following the fatal bear attack that July, it was reported that authorities had launched an extensive series of efforts to capture and relocate the bear. It was stated that these actions were taken in a desperate bid to mitigate the imminent public safety threat. Yet despite the unwavering resolve they possessed, it was reported that these endeavors had proven to be futile. It is worth noting that the region had been filled with fear due to the presence of a grizzly bear, which had been the subject of research and was captured in 2017. In the depths of nature's wild allure, it was determined that her actions in 2020 and the fatal incident in July were deemed defensive responses, characterized by a complex dance between human presence and the wild's territorial instinct. Amidst this tapestry of events, it was reflected upon by Janet Adamson, who had lost her daughter Amy in July's tragedy, reflected on Amy's daily ritual of seeking solace and exhilaration in the wilderness she cherished. Every morning it was said that she would get up early and engage in activities such as walking, hiking, or running. As she ran through the breathtaking beauty of Yellowstone, she felt as though she was on the verge of entering a state of pure bliss. It was reported that she had passed away while engaging in an activity that brought her immense joy. In a land known as bear country, where Montana's national forests harbored colossal and powerful creatures, the line between human adventure and untamed reality was blurred. Yellowstone National Park was regarded as a sanctuary for grizzly bears and black bears, where the echoes of their history resonate, as they are the descendants of brown bears that once roamed the American West. It was a reminder that the intricate tapestry of these encounters is a captivating enigma and a poignant testament to the ever-unpredictable realm of the wild, amidst the untamed beauty of nature. The connection between humanity and the wild was observed to be both captivating and poignant.
On a crisp autumn morning in Cape Breton Highlands National Park, a young singer-songwriter named Taylor Mitchell set out to embrace the wilderness. Known for her soulful voice and profound lyrics, Taylor, at 19, had already begun to make her mark in the Canadian folk music scene. Her heart was full of dreams, and her spirit was as wild and free as the landscapes she loved exploring. Taylor's friends and family knew her as a bright spark, a young woman with an old soul whose passion for music was matched only by her love for nature. She had grown up with melodies in her heart and the great outdoors at her doorstep. Her mother often recounted how Taylor would hum tunes while playing in the garden, even as a little girl. As she wandered along the Skyline Trail, Taylor's thoughts blended anticipation for her upcoming performances with a deep appreciation for the natural beauty around her. The trail was a familiar route she had trekked before, with each step bringing a sense of peace and inspiration. But that day, the tranquility of the park was misleading. Unknown to Taylor, the environment had been quietly changing. The park's coyotes, typically shy creatures, had grown bold due to unusual circumstances. A recent scarcity of their regular prey had led them to adapt in unforeseen ways. These animals had begun hunting larger creatures, even moose, an extraordinary behavior for their species. Stanley Garrett, a researcher studying these coyotes, would later suggest that this prey switching had altered their natural behavior. No longer the timid scavengers of the woods, these coyotes had learned to confront and take down formidable opponents. As Taylor meandered along the trail, lost in her thoughts and the music playing in her head, a pack of these altered coyotes lurked nearby. In a tragic twist of fate, their paths crossed. The coyotes attacked, perhaps mistaking her for another animal or driven by a newfound predatory confidence. Taylor's scream shattered the serenity of the forest, a stark, chilling sound that seemed out of place in such peaceful surroundings. Hikers nearby rushed to her aid, their hearts pounding with fear and shock. Calls were made to emergency services, and soon the sound of sirens pierced the air, disrupting the natural chorus of the park. Paramedics found Taylor grievously injured, her body bearing a brutal testament to the attack. Despite their efforts, her wounds were too severe. The young singer, whose life had been a beautiful melody, tragically faded into silence. Taylor Mitchell, a beloved daughter, friend, and artist, succumbed to her injuries, leaving a void that words could not fill. The news of her death sent ripples of sorrow across the country. Fans who had followed her burgeoning career were left heartbroken. Her mother, engulfed in grief, remembered Taylor as a seasoned naturalist who deeply respected all living creatures. She recalled how Taylor, even in her youth, had expressed concern for the welfare of wildlife. In the wake of the attack, the community grappled with a mix of emotions. There was a grief for the loss of a promising young talent and disbelief at the nature of her passing. Faced with this unprecedented incident, the park officials intensified their efforts to monitor wildlife activity. The coyotes involved were located and euthanized, a decision that sparked a bittersweet reaction. Taylor, a nature lover, would have been pained by their fate, yet her friends and family understood the necessity of the action. As brief as it was bright, Taylor Mitchell's life remained a testament to its beauty and unpredictability. Her story, a poignant reminder of the fragile boundary between humanity and the wild, continued to resonate, a melody of love, loss, and the eternal dance between humans and nature.
Shadows whispered wonders, and the stars kept their vigil under the veil of the Appalachian night. In this hallowed silence, Gabriel Alexander's world was abruptly shattered. He awoke suddenly from a deep sleep as a searing pain surged through his scalp, overwhelming his senses. He felt a surge of panic as it mingled with the disorienting darkness that surrounded the backcountry campsite in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. His hands trembled as he fumbled for a flashlight, and his heart pounded with an erratic rhythm that echoed the wild, untamed heartbeat of the wilderness. In those heart-stopping moments, Gabriel was grappling with the unfathomable. His young mind was unable to comprehend the evil force that was seeking to unravel his peaceful existence. The line between reality and nightmare blurred on that fateful night as the echoes of a primal world reverberated through the trees. It was a scene for a battle where a brave soul would confront the unknown, armed only with his will to survive and the ancient spirits of the Smokies as witnesses. At 10:30 p.m., the clock struck, enveloping the serene expanse of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in a cloak of darkness. The night remained silent, with only the whispers of the wind and the occasional rustle of leaves breaking the stillness. Little did he know that this serenity was abruptly shattered, for at that very hour an evil force descended upon him. Gabriel had experienced a sudden jolt as he was forcefully pulled out of the comforting embrace of sleep, while a searing pain tore through his scalp. In the dark depths of the forest, an assailant, unseen and filled filled with relentless ferocity, had forcefully seized him by the head, desperately attempting to drag him deeper into the heart of the woods. The battle for survival began, and the seconds ticked away in the relentless night, leaving Gabriel grappling with the primal instincts that surged within him. In the shadowed heart of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a quiet night was transformed into a battleground as Gabriel, a young soul hailing from Athens, Ohio, was embroiled in a fierce conflict. He was abruptly jolted from his peaceful slumber, his senses overwhelmed by an intense, unbearable pain that surged through his entire body. A whirlwind of bewilderment and fear consumed him, leaving no room for tranquility. His head and face were marred by gashed wounds, serving as stark reminders of the vicious assault that had occurred. His father, who was a beacon of strength, fought off the unseen assailant and chased it into the dark recesses of the wilderness. Gabriel's voice was trembling as he was recounting the nightmarish ordeal. His words were providing a window into the raw fear that was gripping him. During the desperate struggle, an unbearable thought was clawing at his consciousness, the horrifying possibility that this evil force might have claimed not just his own life, but his father's as well. In that heart-wrenching moment, Gabriel's scalp was torn, and pain surged through him, forcing him to confront mortality in its most savage form. He stood on the precipice of a chilling unknown, unsure of what lay ahead. After that harrowing night in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Gabriel and his father, Greg, found themselves summoning reserves of strength they had never known they possessed. They embarked on a dangerous hike together as they sought to reach the sanctuary of a lake that glimmered as a beacon of hope in the vast wilderness. With resolve etching into their every step, they secured a boat and sailed towards the safety they desperately sought. Now, as the sun was casting its first rays upon their battered bodies, Gabriel discovered himself under the care of the dedicated staff at Mission Hospital in Asheville, North Carolina. Remarkably, Greg's father, Greg, emerged from the ordeal without any injuries, which serves as a testament to the fortitude that coursed through their veins. The authorities were left baffled by the unprovoked attack that occurred on the third night of their 5-day adventure. It was confirmed that the duo had meticulously stored their provisions on aerial cables, which only added to the bewilderment felt by the authorities when faced with the audacity of the assailant. Joey Scott, Gabriel's mother, a pillar of strength herself, delivered the reassuring news that Gabriel's spirit had remained unbroken. The bear's onslaught had indeed left its mark, but it had not managed to break his skull or inflict any brain trauma upon him. His eye, which had witnessed the wilderness, remained unharmed. They felt gratitude flowing through their veins, soothing the scars that fateful encounter had left. Plastic surgery and diligent home health care were required on the road to recovery, but the prognosis shone brightly as a beacon of hope. Gabriel, seen as a testament to resilience, was anticipated to have emerged from this trial with renewed vigor, fully prepared to confront the world once again. After Gabriel had a chilling encounter, a dedicated team of rangers initiated a determined hunt for the assailant. They could bear fruit from their efforts as they zeroed in on the exact location where the attack had taken place. There, amidst the ancient trees and whispering leaves, they came face to face with the bear they believed had been responsible. Park spokeswoman Dana Soen, her heart burdened with sorrow, confirmed the capture and subsequent humane euthanization of the male bear at Campsite 84. A somber realization settled upon us as we breathed in the heavy air, understanding that nature, while breathtaking, could also be unforgiving. The park responded promptly to the increased bear activity by taking swift action, closing down 4 trails and 6 backcountry campsites. This precautionary veil extended even to a shelter along the storied Appalachian Trail. The untamed wild that thrived in the heart of the park was starkly reminded of it. Great Smoky Mountains National Park urged vigilance among its visitors as approximately 1,500 black bears prowled the expanse, ranging from 100 to a staggering 500 pounds. Park Superintendent Cassius Cash, a dedicated steward of this magnificent natural wonderland, emphasized the rarity of such incidents. However, he earnestly implored all individuals who ventured into this untamed realm to heed the necessary precautions. A plea resonated through the rustling leaves, calling for the delicate balance that bound man and beast in this ancient sanctuary to be respected. In the heart of Tanzania, under the sweltering African sun, lay Maridadi Zoo, known for its extensive wildlife and exotic flora collection. The year was 1997 when the local communities thrived on tourism and the tales of the wild. In this fabricated oasis, it was here that the peculiar and harrowing story of Ethel May Harrison unfolded. Ethel, a vibrant woman 70, had traveled from her quiet home in the English countryside to the rich landscapes of Tanzania. With her silver hair neatly tied and her eyes twinkling with adventure, she carried the spirit of someone half her age. Her grandson, Michael Harrison, a budding zoologist, worked as an intern at Maridadi Zoo and was the reason behind her visit. The first few days passed in wonder and excitement as Ethel accompanied Michael on his daily rounds, her fascination with the animals growing exponentially. She was particularly mesmerized by the lions, their majestic presence and untamed beauty calling to her in a way she couldn't explain. The grandest of them was Simba, a robust male lion whose mane glistened like spun gold under the sun. On a fateful morning, as the zoo prepared for another busy day, Ethel decided to take an early stroll. The air was crisp, filled with the songs of birds and the distant roars of lions. Michael, preoccupied with his duties, had instructed his grandmother to stay within the safe zones marked throughout the park. Ethel, however, with a stubborn streak and an insatiable curiosity, wandered off the beaten path. As she meandered through the lush pathways, her eyes caught the lion's enclosure. Her heart leaped with a mix of fear and excitement. The barrier seemed trivial, a mere fence between her and the magnificent creatures. The zoo was yet to open to the public, and the quietness of the morning emboldened her. Without a second thought, she found a small, unattended gate that led into a service corridor adjacent to the lion's habitat. Inside the corridor, the sounds of the zoo faded into a distant hum, replaced by the more primal sounds of the animals. Ethel's breath quickened with each step, her hands trembling not from fear but from an exhilarating sense of freedom. She reached the end of the corridor, which unexpectedly opened up to a part of the enclosure, hidden from public view. Simba, the lion, lay just a few feet away, basking in the morning sun. His eyes, golden and deep, met Ethel's, and time seemed to stand still for a moment. The fascination, however, was short-lived. The morning's tranquility was shattered by a low, menacing growl from Simba, a sound that froze Ethel's blood. Panicked, Ethel turned to flee, but her foot caught on a loose stone. She tumbled to the ground, her cries echoing through the enclosure. Stirred by the commotion, Simba approached with a predatory grace, his gaze locked on the fallen intruder. Meanwhile, Michael began a frantic search after realizing his grandmother's absence. He called out her name, his voice laced with fear. The staff rallied, spreading out in all directions. The commotion drew the attention of other workers, and it wasn't long before a security guard stationed near the lion's enclosure heard Ethel's desperate screams. As the guard raced towards the sound, Michael arrived, his worst fears materializing before his eyes. Ethel lay on the ground, her face contorted in terror as Simba loomed over her. Without a second thought, Michael and the guard, armed only with tranquilizer guns and a deep sense of dread, entered the enclosure. The tension was palpable, the air thick with danger and desperation. With a steely resolve, Michael stepped forward, calling out to the lion in a firm yet calming tone. Despite recognizing the young man's voice, who had often fed him, Simba hesitated. His majestic head tilted, caught between the instincts of a predator and the strange bond formed with the zookeepers. With every second counting, Michael managed to distract Simba long enough for the guard to take a clear shot with the tranquilizer. The lion, hit by the dart, staggered for a moment before collapsing into a deep slumber. The rescue team rushed in, carefully lifting Ethel from the ground. Her injuries were superficial, but the shock of the encounter had left its mark. As she was carried away on a stretcher, her eyes met Michael's, filled with a mix of regret and gratitude. The incident at Maridadi Zoo became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the boundaries between man and beast. Ethel's adventure, while terrifying, ended without loss of life, but the consequences of her actions reverberated through the community. The zoo reviewed its safety measures, and Ethel, once recovered, dedicated her time to advocating for responsible wildlife tourism. As for Simba, he remained the king of his enclosure, a wild spirit undimmed by the encounter. The zookeepers, especially Michael, treated him with a newfound respect, understanding the delicate balance of their coexistence. The sunset over Maridadi Zoo cast long shadows and ended a day that would long be remembered. In the hearts of those who witnessed it, the story of Ethel and the lion lived on a tale of curiosity, folly, and the thin line that separates the wild from the civilized world. In the wake of the harrowing incident, Maridadi Zoo became the center of a local media frenzy. Ethel's ill-advised adventure into the lion's enclosure sparked safety and wildlife conservation debates. Her story was splashed across newspapers and television screens as she recuperated in the local hospital, a sobering reminder of the respect and caution that wild animals demand. Back at the zoo, Michael took the incident to heart. He worked tirelessly with the zoo's management to enhance safety protocols, ensuring no such breach would occur again. The staff was retrained, Fences were reinforced, and surveillance cameras were installed around critical areas. Once a place of carefree exploration, the zoo now bore the weight of Ethel's encounter, a constant reminder to respect the boundaries between humans and animals. Ethel, meanwhile, grappled with a maelstrom of emotions. Her recovery was swift, but the psychological impact lingered. She spent long hours staring out her hospital window, reflecting on the moment she locked eyes with Simba. The lion's raw power and untamed beauty had left an indelible mark on her soul. She realized how her reckless curiosity endangered her life and the well-being of the magnificent creature that had spared her. As the days passed, Ethel's story gained a following. People worldwide sent letters, some chastising her for her foolishness, others expressing admiration for her adventurous spirit. Among the correspondence, a letter from a local Tanzanian school caught her attention. The children expressed concern for her well-being and hoped that she had learned the importance of respecting wildlife. Touched by their words, Ethel decided to respond. With Michael's help, she organized a visit to the school once she was well enough. There, she spoke to the children, sharing her story and emphasizing the lessons she had learned. She spoke of the majesty of the animals and the need to preserve and respect their habitats. The children listened, enraptured by the tale of the old woman who had come face to face with a lion and lived to tell the story. Ethel's encounter became a turning point for her and the community. Once a mere tourist attraction, the zoo took on a more profound role in wildlife education and conservation. Inspired by his grandmother's experience and the subsequent changes at the zoo, Michael pursued his studies with renewed vigor, eventually becoming a respected figure in animal behavior and conservation. The story of Ethel May Harrison and her encounter with Simba the lion became a legend in its own right. It served as a reminder of the wild's indomitable spirit and humans' responsibility to preserve and respect it. The Maridadi Zoo continued to flourish, a place of wonder and learning, where the roar of the lion was a call to respect the beauty and power of the natural world. Ethel's legacy endured as the years passed, inspiring new generations of visitors to look upon the wild with wonder, respect, and a keen sense of responsibility. The tale of the grandmother who wandered too close to the lion's den, surviving to learn and teach others, became a story told and retold, each telling a tribute to the thin and precious line between humanity and the vast wild world surrounding it.
Story 4. On a day marked by overcast skies in the Simiyu region of northern Tanzania, a group of local miners, driven by hope and necessity, ventured into a restricted mining area. It was January 14, 2024, a date that would soon be remembered for a harrowing turn of events. These miners, ranging in age from 24 to 38, were drawn to a location known for its rich deposits of gold, undeterred by the risk posed by the ongoing heavy rains. In small-scale mining, where formal procedures and safety measures are often a luxury, the miners worked with a sense of urgency. Each swing of the pickaxe and shovel was fueled by a desire for a better life, a chance to support their families in a region where opportunities were scarce. As they delved deeper, excavating the earth beneath their feet, the persistent rains that had been their constant companion had silently transformed the ground above them. The soil, saturated and loosened, was on the brink of giving way. Unbeknownst to the miners, each moment spent underground brought them closer to danger. The disaster struck with a sudden and brutal force. A landslide triggered by the weakened earth cascaded down upon the mining site. In an instant, the hopes and efforts of the miners were buried under a massive wave of mud and debris. The ground they had been mining turned against them, entombing them in a dark, suffocating embrace. Above ground, the aftermath of the landslide was chaotic. The site, which moments before was alive with the sounds of labor, was now eerily silent, save for the muffled sounds of shifting earth. Families and friends of the miners who had been waiting for their return rushed to the site, their faces marked by fear and confusion. The local community mobilized quickly, tightly knit by shared struggles and joys. Men and women, young and old, converged on the site, their hands ready to dig and their hearts heavy with anxiety. The rescue operation was a frantic battle against time and nature, as they worked to uncover any signs of life. The site was transformed into a tableau of human resilience and solidarity in those desperate hours. The rescuers, many of whom knew the trapped miners personally, dug through the mud with a determination born of hope and desperation. Every uncovered stone and lifted clump of earth was a mixture of dread and anticipation. As the day wore on, the grim reality began to set in. The rescue efforts, though relentless, were met with heartbreaking discoveries. One by one, the bodies of the miners were recovered, each retrieval a sad moment that weighed heavily on the hearts of the rescuers and onlookers. The mood at the site was somber, a collective mourning for lives lost too soon. The small-scale miners, who had entered the restricted area for a better future, were victims of a tragedy, highlighting the precarious nature of their livelihoods. In the face of this catastrophe, the community of Samiyu came together in grief and support. The tragedy was a harsh reminder of the dangers faced by those who toil in unregulated and unsafe mining conditions. It underscored the need for better oversight, safety measures, and support for small-scale miners, who often risk everything in pursuit of a better life. The landslide in the Samiyu region was not just a natural disaster. It was a human tragedy that resonated deeply with the community and beyond. It was a stark reminder of the risks and sacrifices made by those working in the shadows of the mining industry, a poignant testament to the human cost of the relentless pursuit of precious resources. Kuriki stood alone on the frigid summit of Denali, the wind howling around him as if nature was testing the limits of his resilience. It was 2004, and he had just conquered the tallest peak in North America. Little did he know, this would begin a roller coaster journey that would eventually thrust him into the spotlight, then into controversy, and finally into the unforgiving arms of the world's highest mountain. In 2005, Kuriki's star continued to rise. Aconcagua, Elbrus, and Kilimanjaro fell beneath his determined feet. The mountaineering world took notice of this unassuming figure with a heart as towering as the peaks he scaled. He reached the summit of Oceania's Carstensz Pyramid, proving that his ambitions knew no bounds. The year 2007 saw Kuriki conquer Cho-Oyu and Vinson Massif, earning him a place in the pantheon of elite mountaineers. His achievements were immortalized in a TV documentary, catapulting him to fame and boosting his popularity. With newfound recognition, he utilized his status to secure donations and sponsorships for international expeditions, fulfilling dreams that once seemed impossible. However, as Kuriki ascended to greater heights, so did the controversies surrounding him. Questionable claims of solo alpine-style ascents without supplemental oxygen cast shadows over his achievements. Doubts were raised about his independence, with revelations of reliance on guides and fixed ropes. Contradictions in his solo claims, such as on Kilimanjaro, where a guide is required, fueled skepticism among the mountaineering community. Despite his successes, Kuriki faced numerous challenges and failures. Unsuccessful attempts on Everest, Annapurna, and Shishapangma marred his record. Controversial choices in planning rush schedules and poor acclimatization strategies haunted his expeditions. The 2009 Everest attempt failed due to fatigue and altitude sickness, setting the stage for even more significant setbacks. The year 2012 proved to be a turning point in Kuriki's life. Frostbite and mistakes during the attempt at Shishapangma led to the permanent loss of 9 fingers. Yet undeterred, he made a comeback in 2014 with the successful ascent of Broad Peak. However, subsequent failures in 2015, 2016, and 2017 turned the internet into a ruthless arena of mockery. Amid the ridicule, Kuriki harbored a determination to reclaim his glory. In 2018, he embarked on a perilous journey, a challenging 8th ascent of Everest via the southwest face, and this time he vowed to do it without supplemental oxygen. The southwest face was a less traveled route, demanding exceptional skill and courage. However, Kariki's grand aspirations were met with dwindling admirers, sponsors, and expedition funds. The fall from grace had been harsh, but he faced the challenge with the quiet determination that had characterized his entire career. May 21, 2018 marked the beginning of Kariki's fateful attempt. As he ascended the southwest face, the world watched with bated breath. The once jubilant explorer now traversed the treacherous slopes with diminished support and heightened risks. Kariki had become a lone figure against Everest's vast, unforgiving canvas. Early in the attempt, illness struck, causing delays. It was a cruel twist of fate, a reminder of the unpredictable nature of high-altitude endeavors. Serious illness befell Kariki while camping at 7,400 meters. He sent a radio message to his climbing guides at Camp 2 from Camp 3, pleading for help. Responding to his distress call, a team of guides left for Camp 3 immediately. The unforgiving terrain and biting cold slowed their progress. Kariki had asked for help as he suffered from a persistent cough and pain, his guide later revealed. In the challenging conditions of Everest, every moment counted, and time slipped away like melting snow. As the team ascended toward Camp 3, the radio network disconnected in the freezing darkness. It was impossible to locate Kariki in the night, lost in the vast expanse of the mountain. The guides faced the relentless challenges of the Everest night, a void where survival often depended on quick decisions and luck. Kariki, battling his demons, fell down a cliff while traversing the dangerous slopes in the dark. The mountain, indifferent to human struggles, claimed another victim. He succumbed to his injuries and the unforgiving embrace of low body temperature or hypothermia, his final moments a haunting testament to the relentless pursuit of human ambition. The news of Kariki's fate sent shockwaves through the mountaineering community and the world. His body was found the following day at 7,200 meters above sea level, near Camp 2. The remnants of a dream lay scattered on the unforgiving slopes of Everest. The mixed emotions in Japan mirrored the complex legacy Kariki left behind. Few knew he was attempting another Everest ascent, and the news brought sadness, reflection, and an acknowledgement of the dangers of pursuing such lofty goals. Kariki's journey, from the heights of triumph to the depths of controversy and tragedy, was a testament to the unpredictable nature of mountaineering. The mountains, as majestic and awe-inspiring as they are, demand respect and resilience. Kariki's story is a stark reminder that even the most seasoned climbers are not immune to the perils that loom on the world's highest peaks. In the heart of San Francisco, a city vibrant with life and stories, the Pacific Avenue Apartments stood unassuming, a dwelling like any other in the bustling area. On a fateful January day in 2001, it was here that the life of Diane Whipple, a cherished lacrosse coach at St. Mary's College, would tragically intertwine with a creature far removed from the urban landscape she called home. Just days shy of her 34th birthday, Diane returned from a grocery run, her arms laden with bags, her mind perhaps on the upcoming celebrations. Known for her athletic prowess and vibrant spirit, she had narrowly missed qualifying for the 1996 Atlanta Olympics in the 800-meter. Her passion for sports had seamlessly transitioned into a coaching career, where she was revered for her innovative techniques and uncanny ability to unite her team, turning them from underdogs to champions. She lived with her longtime partner, Sharon Smith, in an apartment filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. Diane was the kind of person who lit up a room with her presence. Her energy and enthusiasm were infectious to all who knew her. But there was a shadow looming over her otherwise peaceful life. Diane had confided in Sharon about a terrifying encounter with the neighbor's dog, Bane, a massive Presa Canario known for its muscular build and formidable strength. The incident had left Diane shaken, the memory lingering like a dark cloud. The neighbors, Robert Noel and Marjorie Knoller, were an odd pair, attorneys with lives far from ordinary. They were caretakers for two Presa Canarios, Bane and Hera, owned by a client serving a life sentence. Unbeknownst to many, these dogs were part of a more sinister world, linked to the Aryan Brotherhood and bred for aggression. On that January afternoon, as Diane stepped into the hallway, she was unaware that Bane was loose. In seconds, the hallway turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. The dog, weighing more than Diane herself, attacked with a shocking and deadly ferocity. The neighbors call to 911 was a desperate plea for help, but by the time the police arrived, the scene they encountered was heart-wrenching. Diane lay grievously injured, and the aftermath of the attack was a stark reminder of the savagery that had unfolded. Despite the efforts of the first responders, the injuries were too severe. Diane Whipple, beloved coach, partner, and friend, succumbed to her wounds, leaving a void that words could not fill. The news of her death sent shockwaves through the community. Students and colleagues at St. Mary's College were left reeling, their beacon of inspiration and joy cruelly taken from them. A memorial service was held where Megan Bryan, one of her players, tearfully remembered Diane's impact. She made us a team. We were her creation. Heartbroken and in disbelief, Sharon struggled to accept the loss. The life they had built together, the plans they had made, all lay shattered. The incident raised questions and fears, turning the once peaceful neighborhood into a place of mourning and anger. The bizarre saga of Noelle and Noller unfolded in the public eye, revealing a twisted tale involving criminal connections and strange adult adoption. Their negligent and reckless actions had allowed a deadly creature to roam free. As the legal proceedings began, San Francisco District Attorney Terrence Hallinan and a team of prosecutors, including the ambitious Kimberly Guilfoyle, sought justice for Diane. The trial moved to Los Angeles due to its high-profile nature, unveiling the grim reality of Bane's upbringing and the couple's failure to control their dangerous pets. The conviction of Noelle and Noller brought some closure, but for those who knew and loved Diane, life would never be the same. Sharon's fight for justice, a testament to her love for Diane, set a precedent for same-sex partners in wrongful death suits. Diane's memory lived on in the following years through the scholarship foundation established in her name. Her legacy continued to inspire young athletes, and her story, a tragic reminder of the consequences of human recklessness and the unpredictability of animal behavior, resonated with many. In the echoes of that hallway on Pacific Avenue, the laughter and cheers of a beloved coach and athlete lingered, a haunting reminder of a life taken too soon and a community forever changed by a single tragic encounter.
In the picturesque town of Meaux, east of Paris, the festive season was underway. The streets were adorned with twinkling lights, and the air was filled with the joyous sounds of Christmas. Families were preparing for the celebrations, none more so than one particular family in a cozy ground-floor flat. They appeared to be the epitome of a happy household, eagerly anticipating the holiday. The father, a 33-year-old man, was known to have a complex past, marked by struggles with mental health. Despite this, he was a figure deeply integrated into the fabric of his family's life. His history included disturbing elements, a previous violent incident against his partner, and ongoing battles with depression and psychotic behavior. Yet to the outside world, he was just another member of the community, preparing to celebrate Christmas with his loved ones. As Christmas Eve approached, the family's home buzzed with activity. Sounds of laughter and chatter spilled out into the cold winter night. The children, excited for Santa's visit, were blissfully unaware of the undercurrents of tension that lay beneath the surface of their family life. Inside the home, the atmosphere was a mix of festive joy and unspoken anxieties. The father, battling his inner demons, seemed to oscillate between moments of apparent normalcy and internal turmoil. His wife, the 35-year-old mother of 4, went about the holiday preparations, perhaps mindful of her husband's troubled state, but hopeful for a peaceful celebration. The night of Christmas Eve was a cold one in Meaux. Neighbors, wrapped up in their own holiday preparations, paid little attention to the comings and goings in the family's apartment. Little did they know this was to be a night unlike any other, a night that would change the course of many lives and leave an indelible mark on the town of Mo. As the town settled down for the night with children dreaming of Christmas morning, a tragic story was unfolding inside the family's apartment. A story that would turn a day usually filled with joy and laughter into one of sorrow and disbelief. The first light of Christmas Day in Mo revealed a heart-wrenching scene. The family that had been preparing to celebrate the joyous occasion was now enveloped in tragedy. The mother and her two daughters, aged 7 and 10, had been subjected to a brutal attack, suffering multiple stab wounds in an act of incomprehensible violence. The two younger boys, one just a 9-month-old baby and the other 4 years old, met a tragic fate, believed to have been either suffocated or drowned. The serenity of the holiday morning was shattered when neighbors, concerned by the unusual silence from the family's apartment, discovered a horrifying sight. A pool of blood was visible outside the door, prompting a frantic call to the police. The responding officers were met with a scene of utter devastation. The apartment, which just hours before had been filled with the anticipation of Christmas festivities, was now a tableau of horror. The mother's body lay in the corridor, a silent witness to the tragedy that had unfolded. The children were found in various rooms, a stark and chilling contrast to the warmth and laughter that had once filled those spaces. The community of Mo, unprepared for such a grim reality, was plunged into mourning. The news of the tragedy spread quickly, leaving residents in shock and disbelief. The suspect, the father and husband of the victims, was nowhere to be found at the scene. It wasn't long before he was apprehended near his father's home in a neighboring town. Upon his arrest, he presented a complex picture, a mixture of awareness and confusion. He spoke of his unhappiness and depression, giving a glimpse into the troubled mind that drove him to commit such unspeakable acts. This tragedy was not an isolated incident in the Paris region, which had recently witnessed a series of family annihilations. The incident in Mo added to the growing concern over domestic violence and mental health issues plaguing families. As the investigation unfolded, the town grappled with many unanswered questions. The community began to wonder if warning signs had been missed and whether this tragedy could have been prevented. In the wake of this event, Mo united in grief, with neighbors and strangers coming together to support each other. A memorial of flowers and notes of condolence grew outside the family's apartment, a symbol of a community in shock but determined to find strength and unity. The tragedy in Mo served as a grim reminder of the hidden struggles that can exist behind closed doors and the importance of awareness and intervention in matters of mental health and domestic violence. As the town mourned, it also began to look forward, hoping to learn from this painful event and prevent similar tragedies in the future.
A chilling tale unfolded in the shadow of the majestic Mont Blanc, where the air was thin and the trails treacherous. It's a story of determination, camaraderie, and a tragic turn of events that shook the trail running community to its core. Today we delve into the mysterious circumstances surrounding the untimely demise of a Mont Blanc runner during the August 2022 Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, or UTMB, team event, a grueling race that tested the limits of endurance. Runners from around the globe gathered, fueled by the passion for conquering the unforgiving terrain that Mont Blanc presented. Among them was a Brazilian runner with dreams as high as the towering peaks surrounding him. The runner, eager to leave his mark on the prestigious event, joined the PTL race, a team event that promised glory and adversity. The challenge unfolded on trails that seemed to whisper secrets of endurance and resilience, setting the stage for an unforgettable saga. The UTMB Mont Blanc team event commenced at 8 a.m., with runners embarking on the challenging 290-kilometer course. The first 20 miles of the event unfolded smoothly, with runners navigating the challenging terrain. The air buzzed with a sense of accomplishment and camaraderie. However, as the miles ticked past 20 and the runners approached the 22-mile mark, the atmosphere abruptly shifted. The trails became more treacherous, each step laden with the weight of both triumph and tragedy. The Brazilian runner found himself entangled in a peculiar twist of fate. Amid the race, tragedy strikes. A seemingly inconspicuous fall became the catalyst for an unexpected turn of events. As the Brazilian runner navigated the treacherous trails, His foot suddenly slipped on a hidden crevice concealed beneath a thin veil of snow. In a heart-stopping moment, he plummeted into the icy depths below, the frigid snow swallowing him whole. Despite his desperate struggle against the merciless grip of fate, the bitter cold drained his strength, rendering him powerless against the mountain's unforgiving embrace. With every passing second, the darkness of the mountain's depths consumed him, leaving behind only whispers of a valiant soul lost to the wilderness. News of the incident spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the running community. A sense of urgency enveloped the event as the clock ticked toward 1:30 a.m. the following midnight. The absence of the runner prompted the activation of the rescue team. Amid the eerie stillness of the Mont Blanc wilderness, the rescue team worked tirelessly to locate the missing runner. The unfolding events created an atmosphere of suspense and concern as the trail running community awaited updates on the fate of the Brazilian runner. Despite exhaustive search efforts by the rescue team, the Brazilian runner was ultimately not found, his fate forever entwined in the mysteries of Mont Blanc's rugged expanse. The Brazilian runner, whose identity remained undisclosed out of respect for the privacy of his family and friends, had embarked on the UTMB Mont Blanc team event with dreams as high as the towering peaks surrounding him. His presence, though unnamed, was felt deeply among the runners gathered from around the globe, each united by a shared passion for conquering the unforgiving terrain of Mont Blanc. The tragic incident was a stark reminder that even in pursuing glory, nature's unpredictability can cast a long shadow. As the trail running community mourned the loss of one of its own, there are lessons to be gleaned from the depths of despair. The trails of Mont Blanc teach us the value of resilience and solidarity, and the importance of cherishing every step of the journey. In the twilight of this heart-wrenching tale, the shadows of Mont Blanc's trails lingered and left us with more questions than answers. As we reflect on the life of the fallen runner, we are reminded that the trails, with all their mystery and danger, continue to beckon those who seek the ultimate test of human endurance. On October 28, 2023, a typical morning in the coal-rich region of Karaganda, Kazakhstan, was about to unravel into a day etched in tragedy. The ArcelorMittal Kostenko mine, a sprawling complex that had long been the economic heartbeat of the area, was bustling with activity. Miners, bound by shared pursuit and everyday fears, descended daily into the bowels of the earth, extracting the coal that powered their nation. Below the surface, in the labyrinthine tunnels of the mine, the air was heavy with the scent of coal and the sound of machinery. The miners, a brotherhood formed under the earth, toiled with a resilience born of necessity. They were fathers, sons, and husbands, each hoping to return to the warmth of their homes. But deep within the mine, an invisible menace was brewing. Methane gas, a silent menace in the mining world, had begun to accumulate. Unseen and undetected, it awaited a spark to unleash its fury. As the clock neared midday, the unimaginable happened. An explosion tore through the mine, a monstrous roar that echoed through the tunnels. The force of the blast was catastrophic, sending shock waves that shattered the fragile tranquility of the underground world. Panic ensued as miners scrambled desperately for safety, their shouts drowned out by the collapsing earth around them. Above ground, the impact of the explosion was felt instantly. A tremor shook the mining complex, a sinister signal of the disaster unfolding below. Families and friends who had gathered to welcome their loved ones after their shift were thrown into a vortex of fear and uncertainty. As the news of the explosion spread, a tide of dread washed over Karaganda. The mining community, usually a tight-knit group sharing joys and sorrows, was now united in a collective nightmare. The rescue operation began immediately, a race against time to reach those still trapped. Throughout the day and into the night, the rescue teams, amidst the peril of aftershocks and further collapses, navigated the wreckage. Whether injured or unscathed, each miner brought to the surface was a moment of relief amidst the overwhelming despair. For the families waiting, each passing hour was an eternity of anguish. The catastrophe claimed 46 lives, leaving a scar on the soul of Karagandi. The town was plunged into mourning, the joy and the laughter of daily life replaced by a sad stillness. The mine, once a source of livelihood, had become a grave for those who sought to provide for their families. In the days following the disaster, the town grappled with its loss. Memorials sprang up, candles flickered in the night, and the stories of the fallen were shared, each a tribute to a life cut short. The tragedy of the Kostenko mine became a symbol of the sacrifices made by miners and a stark reminder of the need for vigilance and safety in the depths of the earth. The Karagandi mine disaster of 2023 will be remembered as a moment of sorrow and a call to action, a plea for the protection of those who courageously confront the dangers below to bring light above. It's a story of loss, courage, and the unyielding spirit of a community faced with unimaginable tragedy. The crisp air cut through Peter Swartz's senses as he jolted awake on May 24, 2023. Instead of the cozy warmth of his home in Vancouver, Canada, he found himself on the icy slopes of Camp 4, perched on the towering heights of the world's mightiest peak, Mount Everest. At 63, Peter, an anesthesiologist at UBC and Vancouver General Hospitals, clung to an unyielding determination to conquer Everest summit. Fueled by a deep passion for adventure and an indomitable spirit, his lifelong dream was within grasp during the spring climbing season of 2023. Guided by Madison Mountaineering, a renowned service for mountain expeditions, Peter braced himself for the final stretch of his journey. Camp 4, standing at a daunting 26,247 feet above sea level, signaled the last pause before climbers launched their ultimate assault on the summit. The air at these heights lacked the life-sustaining oxygen, and Peter sensed something amiss upon awakening. A pounding headache, surges of nausea, and a fight for breath hinted at the ruthless conditions. Despite being close to fulfilling his lifelong dream, Peter recognized the warnings his body was sending. As the chilling winds howled around Camp 4, Peter faced a critical decision. He could push on, chase his dream, or listen to the whispers of danger in the thin air. The mountain stood silent but unforgiving, and Peter grappled with the choice that could shape his destiny. The relentless ascent had brought him to the brink, and the unforgiving altitude started to exact its toll. Peter's body, though strong-willed, began to protest. Every step toward the summit seemed heavier, the air thinner, and the dream that had beckoned him felt farther away. With a heavy heart, Peter made the tough call to return from the summit and head down to the lower camps. He aimed for Camp 2, where a waiting helicopter promised a quick trip to the nearest medical help. But the descent mirrored the challenging climb up, battling harsh weather, gusty winds, and tricky terrain that slowed his every step. As Peter descended toward Camp 3, things got worse. Breathing became a struggle, nausea hit harder, and his muscles screamed with fatigue despite the downward trek. His once steady movements slipped away, and keeping his balance became challenging. Breaths turned unpredictable, and dizziness wrapped around him, but Peter pushed forward, convincing himself that Camp 3 was just a bit more. Hope held on to the belief that help awaited him at the third camp, but the mountain, cold and indifferent, had its plans. Peter's body succumbed to the harsh elements of the mountain. Weary eyes stared at the seemingly short distance to Camp 3, but darkness swiftly claimed his vision. Consciousness slipped away, and Peter was slowly overtaken by acute altitude sickness. It wasn't long before he completely lost control of his descent, falling into the mountain's unforgiving embrace, long before reaching the refuge he desperately sought. Within Everest's unforgiving embrace, cardiac arrest gripped Peter, another victim of the mountain's towering challenges. Lifeless, he lay on the cold and arid terrain, joining others who dared to face the formidable strength of the mountain. Their stories echoed in the icy peaks. a testament to the triumphs and tragedies written in the snow and rocks of Everest. While loved ones mourned Peter's passing, regret was absent from their hearts. He had lived to the fullest, pursuing his dreams with an unyielding spirit. In the face of Everest's might, Peter met his end. Still, his journey remained a testament to the indomitable human spirit that drives individuals to conquer even the highest peaks, no matter the cost.
There was one thing and one thing only Tomer Frankfurter wanted as he climbed over the cliff edge: some really cool photos of his trip. He wasn't afraid. After all, Frankfurter knew he wouldn't be the first tourist to make risky decisions for an unforgettable memory. And he was young, barely 18 years old. At that age, everything seems possible. Everything except for the worst. It was September 4th, 2018, and Tomer Frankfurter was visiting Yosemite National Park. The young man was on a 2-month tour of the U.S., after which he had to return to his home in Israel to start his mandatory service in the Israeli army. Frankfurter spent his tour with a family friend from Fresno, California. Frankfurter and his friend arrived at Yosemite together. The day was warm and sunny. Frankfurter chose to follow the Mist Trail, Yosemite's signature hike. With awe-inspiring views scattered all along it, the Mist Trail is extremely popular with tourists. As such, it isn't exactly a lonely hike, but crowds thin out the closer you get to a truly spectacular place, the top of the Nevada Fall, a 594-foot-high waterfall on the Merced River. The more adventurous and fit tourists opt to hike the entirety of the Mist Trail in order to reach the top of the fall. On September 4th, 2018, 18-year-old Tomer Frankfurter was one of them. At some point during the hike, Frankfurter and his friend got separated. But since the Mist Trail is so popular, it wasn't long until Frankfurter found a friendly group of tourists from Israel, Germany, and other countries, and decided to join them for the rest of the day. The trail became increasingly strenuous as they got closer to the top of Nevada Fall, but the effort was more than worth it. Once they got on top of the fall, the group decided it was time to eat lunch, with a view. The place was breathtaking, with the thunderous roar of the water underlying the beauty of the valley below. As they prepared to head back, Tomer Frankfurter had a last-minute idea. He told his new friends he wanted to try and recreate a photo that got a lot of traction on social media. In it, a tourist visiting Telegraph Rock near Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, hanged from a rock outcropping as if the individual was thousands of feet above the ground. What Frankfurter didn't realize, though, was that the photo was merely an optical illusion, with the rock hanging just 3 feet above a trail below. Frankfurter tossed his backpack aside and handed his smartphone to a woman in the group, asking her to take some photos. Others in the group tried to intervene, arguing it was too dangerous, but Frankfurter was determined. He wanted those photos. Ignoring the others, the 18-year-old began climbing over the cliff edge and then dangled himself above the falls. The woman took several photos of Frankfurter. Then came a sudden plea for help. At first, some of the hikers thought the teenager was joking. But then they saw it. His arms were shaking, glistening with sweat. He was struggling to hold on. Several members of the group rushed to his aid, but trying to pull him back onto the trail turned impossible. The would-be saviors couldn't get a good grip of Frankfurter's sweaty arms, and there wasn't any equipment that could help them pull him. It was over in an instant. He slipped from their grasp. Then Tomer Frankfurter fell to his death, some 600 feet below, near the Merced River. He died on impact, becoming one of at least 300 people who died falling from a great height in Yosemite National Park. In the tranquil town of Elkview, West Virginia, nestled amidst rolling hills and scenic beauty, a dark shadow was about to be cast, one that would forever alter the course of its history. At the heart of this unfolding tragedy was Gavin Smith, an 18-year-old whose life was interwoven with the community he was about to devastate. The Smith family home, once a symbol of suburban tranquility, harbored a chilling secret. Risa Mae Saunders and Daniel Dale Long, Gavin's mother and stepfather, embodied the ideals of caring and nurturing parents. Their household also included their sons Gage Ripley, a 12-year-old with a zest for life, and Jameson Long, the 3-year-old joy of the family. This seemingly normal family dynamic, however, was masking a brewing storm. As darkness enveloped the town of Elkview, a sinister plot was set into motion by Gavin. In the dead of night, he executed a plan conceived in the shadows of his disturbed mind. His mother and stepfather, unsuspecting and vulnerable in their sleep, were the first victims of his unfathomable act. In December 2020, Gavin Smith, who was just 16 at the time, committed an unthinkable crime. In the quiet of the night, while the house was hushed in sleep, he took a gun and ended the lives of his mother, Risa Mae Saunders, and his stepfather, Daniel Dale Long, with cold precision. As they slept unaware, he robbed them of their futures with a single fatal shot each. The horror didn't end there. His brothers, 12-year-old Gage Ripley and the youngest, 3-year-old Jamison Long, were next. Gage, barely a teenager, met the same merciless fate, but for Jamison it was even more heart-wrenching. The little boy, likely frightened by the sounds, had hidden under his crib, a place he thought safe. Yet he too was found by Gavin and tragically shot. This chilling spree, driven by Gavin's selfish yearning to be with his girlfriend, shocked the community. The once lively home in Elkview, West Virginia, stood silent when the bodies were discovered 4 days later, a stark reminder of the life brutally snatched away. News of the tragedy rippled through Elkview, sending shockwaves of disbelief and sorrow. The Smiths, known and integrated within the community, had fallen victim to one of their own. Neighbors, friends, and acquaintances grappled with a torrent of emotions: confusion, anger, and disbelief. The very fabric of this tight-knit community was torn, leaving a palpable sense of loss and bewilderment. The trial of Gavin Smith brought the town's pain into the stark light of the courtroom. Gavin's attorney, John Sullivan, attempted to frame him as a product of his environment, hinting at a life of constraints and the added pressure of societal isolation due to the pandemic. Despite these arguments, the overwhelming sentiment was one of outrage and a desperate need for justice. The prosecution, led by J.C. McCallum, painted a contrasting picture of premeditation and remorselessness. They highlighted the calculated nature of Gavin's actions and his attempts to deflect blame, particularly onto his girlfriend, Rebecca Walker, who played a pivotal role in the night's events. The trial was punctuated by the poignant impact statements from Daniel Long's adoptive parents. Their words conveyed an ocean of grief, a lament for the irreplaceable loss of their son and grandchildren. Their pleas for a sentence that truly reflected the gravity of Gavin's actions echoed the community's cry for justice. Judge Kenneth Ballard, while constrained by state law to show mercy, delivered a firm sentence. Gavin received 3 life sentences for the first-degree murder convictions, 40 years for second-degree murder, and an additional 10 years for using a firearm during the felony. Ballard's characterization of the acts as pure evil resonated with a community still reeling from the shock. The trial revealed another layer of this tragedy through the role of Rebecca Walker, Gavin's girlfriend. At 17, Rebecca's involvement was both chilling and tragic. Her plea of guilty to 4 counts of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder painted a picture of a young life entangled in a web of manipulation and poor choices. Sentenced to 10 years, her fate became a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of Gavin's actions. In the aftermath of the sentencing, Elkview faced the daunting task of healing. The murders had shattered the town's idyllic image, leaving residents to grapple with a new, harsher reality. Families held each other closer, finding solace in shared grief and community support. The tragedy sparked conversations about mental health, family dynamics, and the hidden struggles within seemingly normal households. During his final statement in court, Gavin expressed remorse, albeit overshadowed by the gravity of his actions. His words of regret for what he did and his wish that he would take it back because it was one of his deepest regrets resonated with hollowness in the courtroom. For many, this expression of regret came too late and offered little comfort in the face of an overwhelming loss. The Elkview murders left an indelible mark on the community's collective consciousness. The case raised profound questions about justice, redemption, and the nature of evil. It also brought to light the complexities of the juvenile justice system, particularly the challenges in dealing with young offenders who commit serious crimes. For the families directly affected, life would never be the same. The Long family, torn apart by the loss of Daniel, Gage, and Jamison, faced a future without their loved ones. Their grief was a constant reminder of the fateful decisions of one night that changed everything. Elkview, once a symbol of small-town America, now bears the scar of this tragedy. The story of Gavin Smith and the murders of the Smith family became a somber tale of caution, a reminder of the potential for darkness that can reside in the most unexpected places. The community's journey towards healing and understanding would be long and challenging, filled with moments of reflection and a renewed sense of vigilance. What happened was more than a headline. It was a tragedy that touched the lives of many, leaving a legacy of sorrow, unanswered questions, and a town forever changed. The story of Gavin Smith, a tale woven with betrayal, loss, and the pursuit of justice, serves as a poignant reminder of the complexity of human nature and the fragile nature of the social fabric that binds communities together. In the rugged wilds of Choteau, Montana, where the frontier still existed, an incident of survival unfolded, etching itself into the annals of legend. Chase Delwo, a seasoned bow hunter at the tender age of 26, found himself in a deadly dance with nature's fury. On a crisp Saturday morning, the air was filled with the promise of adventure as Chase and his brother ventured into the untamed wilderness. Little did they know that a fearsome encounter was in store for them. As fate had planned, the shadows emerged from a colossal male grizzly, a behemoth of muscle and might. It was described as a living embodiment of primal power. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, every ounce of courage was summoned by him as his arm was plunged into the gaping maw of the charging beast in a desperate bid for survival. The world appeared to be holding its breath as a lethal struggle unfolded between man and beast. The forest witnessed a battle, its echoes resounding through the ages, serving as a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity when it was confronted with the jaws of oblivion. It was an incident that spoke of the unyielding tenacity of one man, serving as a testament to the unwavering spirit that coursed through the veins of those who dared to challenge the untamed wilderness. As Delwo hiked along the winding creek bed, hope surged within him, a pulsing heartbeat against the silence of the wild. Every step he took was calculated, creating a dance with nature's rhythm as he aimed to guide the elusive herd of elk towards the waiting embrace of his brother on the distant ridge. Nature, however, had its own plans. Delwo's world was shifted on its axis, a mere 3 feet from his intended path. Before him, a slumbering giant was seen, a grizzly. Its hulking form was cloaked in the shroud of winter's wrath. Snow, rain, and fierce winds were swirling in a chaotic symphony. The bear was lying trapped in its dreams, completely oblivious to the approaching presence. Time was suspended in a breath that was held, with the world holding its breath alongside the hunter. The spell was shattered in a heartbeat. The grizzly was awakened as a thunderous eruption of fur and fury was experienced. Delwo's instincts surged, causing him to be propelled back as he desperately retreated from the jaws of impending doom. However, it was unfortunate that the fates proved to be cruel, and he found himself being sent tumbling by the colossal force of the bear, resulting in a clash of titans deep within the heart of the wilderness. The silent expanse was filled with the echo of teeth sinking into flesh, causing searing pain to be felt. In that pivotal moment, the anthem of survival was transformed into a visceral experience as the growling storm was met with a symphony of willpower. Delwo was held in dominion by the grizzly bear, whose roar was described as a thunderclap that appeared to shake the very earth. Yet against all odds, a spark of resilience was ignited within him, a fire that would burn brightly in the face of adversity. The beast's savage assault had no bounds as it sank its teeth into his leg, causing him to be sent spiraling through the frigid air, akin to a helpless leaf being tossed about in a relentless storm. As the world around him blurred into a chaotic whirlwind, Delwo's mind was clawing desperately for salvation. At that moment, a memory that had been buried deep within the annals of his past emerged from the depths, like a lifeline extending from the abyss. He had read a story from a magazine as a gift from his grandmother during a time when he couldn't have imagined the life-saving significance it would hold, and now it has been returned to him. The words reverberated within his mind, compelling him to confront the colossal menace unconventionally. His heart was pounding in his chest as he steeled himself and plunged his right arm deep into the open mouth of the grizzly. The dare against death itself was a gamble that had been taken, and to his amazement, it actually worked. The grizzly bear recoiled as its gag reflex was triggered, and Delwo's life was spared in a heart-pounding instant. His tenacity conquered the wilderness, causing the bear to retreat, and Delwo's battered body and spirit were reunited with his brother, symbolizing an indomitable will that could not be broken. They began a race against time as they sped to the hospital. Surgeons would mend the wounds and restore the shattered fragments of his ordeal. His defiance in the face of a force of nature was witnessed by the stitches and staples, leaving behind scars that would forever etch his story into the sinews of his being. Yet after this epic clash between man and beast had concluded, Delwo spoke a profound truth. He declared, "I wanted everyone to know that it wasn't the bear's fault. He felt just as scared scared as I did. In the unforgiving wilderness, the boundaries between predator and prey were blurred as a primal connection was revealed between all creatures in the eternal dance of survival. Dewell, a seasoned hunter with a history of close experiences with the wild, had always lived on the edge of danger. However, never before had he peered into the abyss with just a breath between himself and the enormous grizzly. Even the most daring of guys would have been taken aback by the eerie familiarity of this encounter. Amid adrenaline and survival, he promised to temporarily hang up his hunting gear, yielding to the wisdom of caution. Nature, it seemed, had taught its lesson through wounds and swollen eyes. Dewell's resolve remained unbroken as the stitches traced their trail over his head. He'd soon trade the sterile white of the hospital room for the vast expanse of Belgrade, Montana, his hometown. The windswept plains would greet him back, a tribute to his unyielding spirit as he prepared for the start of rifle season. A promise to himself and the wild, a symphony of life and death ringing in the hunter's heart. An incident of survival was inscribed in his body, a monument to the uncompromising urge of a man who dared to face the wild with unflinching eyes. Nestled in the heart of Alabama, Elkmont is a picturesque town, emblematic of Southern charm and hospitality. Its streets, lined with oak trees and quaint homes, echoed with the laughter of children and the friendly greetings of neighbors. The town, proud of its close-knit community and tranquil life, was a place where everyone knew each other's names and stories. In this serene setting lived the Sisk family. John and Mary Sisk, with their children, were an integral part of the community fabric. John, a hardworking man, was known for his dedication to his family and his job. Mary, a loving mother and active community member, was often seen organizing local events. Their children, each with their own unique personalities, were familiar faces in the neighborhood. Mason, the eldest child, was a quiet and introspective teenager. To the outside world, he appeared as any other boy his age, dealing with the trials and tribulations of adolescence. However, beneath the surface, Mason was struggling. He often felt misunderstood and disconnected from his family, harboring feelings of resentment and isolation. Behind the facade of a happy family, tensions simmered. John and Mary, though loving parents, were often caught up in the whirlwind of daily life, sometimes overlooking the emotional needs of their children, particularly Mason. The household was not immune to arguments and conflicts, typical of family life. Yet these moments were more impactful on Mason than anyone realized. Mason's feelings of alienation gradually intensified. He spent more time alone, retreating into the digital world of video games, where he found solace from his real-life struggles. His interactions with his family became increasingly strained, marked by silent dinners and unspoken frustrations. The community of Elkmont, while close-knit, remained largely unaware of the growing storm within the Sisk household. Neighbors saw only the superficial harmony, not the deepening cracks in the family's foundation. The Sisks, like many families, kept their private struggles hidden behind closed doors. As the summer of 2019 waned, the undercurrents of discontent in Mason reached a boiling point. The usual familial disputes took on a heavier tone, and Mason's sense of isolation deepened. Unbeknownst to those around him, a tragic plan was beginning to form in his troubled mind. On the eve of the tragedy, Elkmont lay in peaceful slumber, unaware that the following day would forever alter the fabric of their community. The Sisk family retired to bed, each member lost in their thoughts, oblivious to the horror that would unfold with the dawn. As the night deepened in Elkmont, the Sisk household, once filled with the day's mundane activities, became the setting for a harrowing turn of events. Mason, overwhelmed by a turmoil that had been brewing for years, made a decision that would irreparably shatter lives. In the dead of night, he turned against his own, his father John, 38, his mother Mary, 35, and his three innocent siblings, Kane, 6, Rory, 4, and the baby Colson, just 6 months old. Each was asleep, unaware and trusting. Yet one by one, Mason coldly shot them in the head, silencing his family forever. The house that once echoed with the sounds of a bustling family fell eerily silent. The next day, Mason coolly concocted a story of an unknown assailant, a story soon unraveled by his own confession. His admission revealed a harrowing truth. He was fed up with them, a reason that left even seasoned investigators shaken. The community reeled in disbelief, mourning the unfathomable loss of a family to one of their own. In the quiet hours, he committed an act so shocking that it defied comprehension, ending the lives of his father, mother, and 3 siblings. The morning light brought with it a discovery that shook the core of Elkmont. Neighbors and first responders were met with a scene of unimaginable horror. The news spread rapidly, and the town was engulfed in a state of disbelief and mourning. The Sisk family, once a symbol of a normal, happy household, was now at the center of a tragic mystery. In the immediate aftermath, Mason portrayed himself as a survivor of an unknown assailant's violence. His initial account of the events led to a brief period of community-wide fear and confusion. However, this narrative quickly began to unravel as investigators delved deeper into the evidence. As the police investigation intensified, inconsistencies in Mason's story emerged. Under scrutiny, the facade of his initial account crumbled, revealing the disturbing truth. Mason eventually confessed to the killings, stating he was fed up with the family's internal conflicts. This confession sent ripples of shock and betrayal through the community. Mason's trial became a focal point not only for legal justice, but also for communal grief and the search for answers. The courtroom was filled with the heavy emotions of those affected, a community trying to comprehend the incomprehensible. Prosecutors presented a case that painted a picture of a deeply troubled youth, while the defense sought to highlight the complexities of Mason's mental and emotional state. The trial featured heart-wrenching impact statements from relatives and friends. They spoke not only of the loss of the Sisk family members, but also of the Mason they once knew and loved. Each statement was a tapestry of sorrow, confusion, and a profound sense of loss, painting a vivid picture of the widespread impact of the tragedy. Mason's sentencing to life imprisonment was a moment of mixed emotions. For some, it was a necessary closure, a form of justice for the unfathomable crime. For others, it was a reminder of the irreparable loss and the failure to save a young boy from descending into darkness. The sentence reverberated beyond the courtroom, prompting conversations about family dynamics, mental health, and community responsibility. In the wake of the tragic events that unfolded in Elkmont, the town found itself at a crossroads. The shocking reality of what had occurred within the Sisk family home had not only torn apart a family, but it also pierced the heart of the entire community. As the dust settled on the trial and sentencing of Mason Sisk, Elkmont was left to grapple with a multitude of emotions and unanswered questions. The once unblemished image of their small town was now marred by an act of inexplicable violence, and the residents were forced to confront the fragility of the seemingly idyllic life they had known. The collective grief of the town was palpable in the days and months that followed. A heavy silence hung over the streets where children used to play without care, and neighbors who used to greet each other with smiles now exchanged solemn nods. The tragedy had not just taken the lives of the Sisk family, it had stolen a piece of Elkmont's soul. The vibrant community spirit, once the town's pride, now seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by a cloud of sorrow and disbelief. However, amidst this period of mourning and reflection, there emerged a gradual yet profound transformation within the community. The tragedy served as a stark reminder of the complexities hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. It sparked conversations about issues that were previously whispered about in hushed tones: mental health, family dynamics, and the importance of community support in times of crisis. These discussions, though born out of a tragic event, began to break down barriers, encouraging openness and understanding among the residents. Schools and local organizations took the lead in this newfound mission of awareness and support. Programs focusing on mental health, conflict resolution, and family counseling were initiated. The schools, once places of purely academic pursuit, now emphasized the importance of emotional well-being, creating an environment where students could seek help without stigma. Parents, too, became more involved, recognizing the vital role they play in the emotional development of their children. The churches and community centers of Elkmont became havens of healing. Vigils and memorials were organized not just in remembrance of the Sisk family, but as symbols of unity and strength. These gatherings allowed the community to come together, to share their grief, and to offer support to one another. Through these shared experiences, the residents of Elkmont found a path towards healing, rediscovering the strength of their communal bonds. As Elkmont slowly emerged from the shadow of the tragedy, there was a renewed sense of purpose among its residents. The town, which had once taken pride in its serene lifestyle, now prided itself on its resilience and its compassionate spirit. Annual events were organized to honor the memory of the Sisk family, turning a day of mourning into a celebration of community and hope. In this journey from darkness to light, Elkmont demonstrated the incredible power of community in the face of adversity. The town's story, marked by a tragic event, became a testament to the human capacity for empathy, resilience, and transformation. It reminded everyone that out of the depths of despair can come profound growth and renewal. As the years passed, the story of Elkmont and the Sisk family tragedy continued to resonate, not as a tale of loss and sorrow, but as a narrative of healing and hope. It served as a reminder that even in the most tragic circumstances, there lies the potential for change, understanding, and a renewed appreciation for the bonds that connect us all. The legacy of this tragedy thus concludes not with an ending, but with a new beginning, a chapter of collective strength and unwavering spirit, as the town of Elkmont continued to write its story with courage and heart. It's more than 100 years ago when the final 400-foot ascent of Half Dome, the iconic rock formation in Yosemite National Park, was fitted with cables. Standing at 8,800 feet above sea level, Half Dome has fascinated nature lovers and hikers for the longest time, despite the trickier parts of the hike. The reward, most people say, it's worth the effort. This was probably what Danielle Burnett believed, too. The 29-year-old woman loved nature and was particularly fond of hikes, especially when they provided wonderful views. And what better place for a striking view than Yosemite? Burnett, who was originally from Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and worked as a social media manager at Havasu Springs Resort in Parker, Arizona, arrived at the park on September 5, 2019. She had previously gotten a lottery-distributed permit to climb to the top of Half Dome, a necessity for all those who wish to venture on the hike. The Half Dome Trail traverses some 17 miles and gains about 4,800 feet in elevation. In other words, it's not a walk in the park. In fact, the last portion of the trail is particularly strenuous. That's why it was fitted with cables back in 1919. Hikers are advised to be cautious and avoid the trail if they're unprepared or out of shape. Even the most experienced hikers could face problems out there, with altitude sickness and changing weather being possible obstacles. But this wasn't Danielle Burnett's first time out on a hike. She was all right for the most part of the hike, that is, until she reached the strenuous and famous cable route. Sean Slimp and his group were also on the cable route when they heard a commotion above. When he looked up, Slimp saw Danielle Burnett struggling. A light sprinkle had started, which seemed to terrify Burnett. In her panic, Burnett decided getting to the top wasn't worth it. She needed to turn around even though her group continued on. Slimp watched as Burnett's shoes slipped on the rock. Then the woman fell hard. In an instant, she lost her grip on the cable and started sliding down. Slimp and one of his friends sprang into action trying to catch Burnett. It was of no use. She was simply too far from their reach. Slimp watched in horror as Danielle Burnett slipped past. Her screams pierced the air. Then she tumbled more than 500 feet down the rocky surface. The rest of the hikers had to be evacuated so a helicopter could fly in. When park rangers arrived on the scene, Danielle Burnett was already dead. Her family was devastated. Her sister, Nicole Burnett, posted a tribute on Facebook, asking people to allow her family to grieve in privacy. It's with a broken heart to inform you all that our beautiful Danielle left us yesterday doing something she loved so much, Nicole's post also said. According to the Mercury News, Danielle Burnett was at least the 12th person since 1995 whose life was claimed by Half Dome in Yosemite National Park.
On November 28, 2023, the day began with a typical hum of activity at the Impala Platinum Mine near Rustenburg, South Africa. This vast mining complex, known for its significant contribution to the world's platinum supply, was a hub of life and labor where miners worked diligently, extracting the precious metal from deep within the earth. As the end of the shift approached, more than 80 miners, weary from a long day's work, gathered to ascend from the depths of Shaft 11C. They exchanged casual banter, relieved that their shift was nearing its end. The miners, a close-knit community, shared a bond forged in the darkness of the mines, united by their everyday toil. Unbeknownst to them, a catastrophe was brewing. The lift, a vital piece of machinery that connected the miners to the world above, was about to fail unexpectedly and devastatingly. As the workers boarded the lift, there was no indication of the impending disaster. All of a sudden, the elevator, instead of going up, started to fall uncontrollably. The miners were shocked and terrified. The descent was fast and out of control. It felt like a terrible nightmare where they were falling. During those scary moments, the miners thought about their families, their dreams, and their lives that were in danger. The safety systems designed to prevent such an occurrence tragically failed. The lift carrying the miners hurtled down the shaft at a terrifying speed. It only stopped when the conveyance counterweight became trapped by the jack, catching a mechanism to halt such uncontrolled movements. The impact of the sudden halt was both a relief and a horror. While it spared the lift from crashing to the bottom, the abrupt stop caused severe injuries to many of the miners inside. It was a chaotic scene, filled with cries of pain and fear, as the miners grappled with the immediate aftermath of the accident. Rescue operations commenced swiftly, a race against time to reach the injured and provide the necessary aid. The news of the accident spread rapidly, and soon the miners' families gathered at the site, their faces marked with worry and distress. The atmosphere was heavy, with a mix of hope for the safe return of their loved ones and dread for what the rescue teams might find. The rescue teams worked tirelessly, navigating the challenges of the deep mine to bring the miners to safety. As the injured were brought to the surface, the extent of the tragedy became clear. 11 miners had lost their lives in this devastating accident, and 75 others were injured, some critically. The mining community of Rustenburg was plunged into mourning. The Impala Platinum Mine, a place of livelihood for many, had in a moment become a site of immense loss and sorrow. The grief was palpable among the miners' families and the entire community, which shared a deep connection with the mine and its workers. The CEO of Impala Platinum, Nico Muller, expressed profound sorrow and shock at the tragedy, declaring it the darkest day in the company's history. The accident raised serious questions about safety standards in one of the world's deepest mines, a concern the workers and their families echoed. As investigations into the cause of the accident began, the mining community of Rustenburg came together in solidarity, sharing in the grief and supporting one another through this tough time. The tragedy served as a stark reminder of the risk faced by those who delve deep into the earth and the need for unwavering attention to safety in the mining industry. The disaster at the Impala Platinum Mine on that fateful day in November 2023 would remain etched in the memories of all affected, a sad reminder of the fragility of life and the bravery of those who work deep within the earth.
In the verdant outskirts of Nairobi, Kenya, surrounded by acacia trees and the distant silhouette of mountains, stood the Harambee Haven Zoo. Renowned for its conservation efforts and diverse collection of African wildlife, the zoo was a destination for locals and tourists seeking to understand and appreciate the natural world. It was here, amid the calls of the wild, that the story of Margaret Maggie Thompson took an unexpected turn. Maggie, a robust and adventurous grandmother from a quaint village in Scotland, had traveled to Kenya to fulfill her lifelong dream of witnessing Africa's majestic wildlife. Her passion for animals was matched only by her love for her grandchildren, to whom she planned to bring back tales of lions, elephants, and, most importantly, cheetahs. On a warm, sun-drenched morning, she arrived at Harambee Haven, her camera at the ready and her spirit alight with excitement. As she meandered through the zoo, Maggie was captivated by the rich tapestry of sounds and sights. She admired the elegant giraffes, the playful monkeys, and the melancholy elephants, but her anticipation grew as she approached the cheetah enclosure. The enclosure was a large expanse of land, replicating the cheetah's natural habitat with grassy knolls and sparse trees. A solitary cheetah, known as Asani, rested in the shade, its sleek body a testament to the speed and grace of these incredible creatures. Nearby, a service gate cracked open and caught her attention. It led to a narrow, foliage-lined path that promised a closer view of the swift beast. The staff seemed busy elsewhere, the way unguarded and inviting. With a lifetime of caution thrown to the wind, Maggie slipped through the gate and tiptoed down the path. The foliage grew thicker, obscuring her view, but Maggie pressed on, driven by an inexplicable urge to connect with the creature. As the path curved, she finally came to a stop, her breath catching at the sight before her. Asani, oblivious to her presence, lounged in the grass, his lean form a testament to the untamed beauty of the wild. But in a twist of fate, the ground beneath Maggie shifted, loose soil giving way under her weight. She slid forward, her descent halted by a tangle of roots at the very edge of the enclosure. Startled, Asani lifted his head, his gaze locking onto Maggie. Lying there, her heart pounding, Maggie realized the peril of her situation. The thrill of adventure had led her to a dangerous precipice that held her fate and the magnificent cheetah before her. As Asani's curiosity brought him closer, Maggie whispered a prayer, hoping that her folly would not be her last adventure and that help would swiftly mend the breach between her world and the wild. The calm before the storm shattered as Asani the cheetah, startled by Maggie's movement, launched a warning snarl, his sleek body tensing for an attack. Maggie, her heart in her throat, froze, knowing any sudden move could provoke the animal further. But before Asani could advance, a shout pierced the air, halting the cheetah. Zookeepers, led by the experienced handler Joseph Nagai, charged towards the scene. With years of working with these fast predators, Joseph knew the critical balance of respect and command needed in this delicate situation. He made steady, authoritative calls to Asani, who, recognizing the familiar voice, slowly backed away, his gaze locked on Maggie. Quickly, the staff secured Asani back into a safe area of the enclosure while others attended to Maggie. She was hurried out of the enclosure, her body shaking from the adrenaline and fear. She was remarkably unharmed, despite some scratches and a twisted ankle from her fall. Maggie was taken to a local hospital for treatment, the reality of her ordeal sinking in with every passing moment. Lying in the hospital bed, she replayed the day's events, each moment a vivid memory etched into her mind. She felt a mix of gratitude and disbelief. Her reckless curiosity had brought her within inches of death. Maggie's spirit remained undimmed as she recovered, but her perspective was forever changed. She realized the importance of respecting nature's boundaries and the responsibility that came with her curiosity. Her family, relieved at her safety, listened intently as she recounted her tale, a mix of awe and admonishment in their reactions. Maggie returned to her quiet life, her adventure at Harambe Haven a constant, humbling memory. She took to local speaking engagements, sharing her story to advocate for wildlife safety and respect. The encounter left her with a deeper understanding of the natural world, a respect born from her confrontation with its untamed elements. Asani, the cheetah, continued to grace the plains of his enclosure, a majestic reminder of the wild's unpredictable nature. And Maggie, with each passing day, appreciated her second chance, knowing that life, much like the wild, was precious and fleeting. Her story, a testament to survival and respect, lingered in the minds of all who heard it, a narrative of caution and reverence for the formidable beauty of the wild.
Standing 29,032 feet above sea level, Jason Kennison felt the sting of thin air at the summit of Mount Everest. White puffs of breath escaped his lips as he gazed at the spectacular view that unfolded before him. The vast expanse of snow-covered peaks in the Himalayas seemed to stretch endlessly, and the pride of reaching such heights filled him with a deep sense of accomplishment. At 40 years old, Jason's ascent to the summit of Mount Everest meant more to him than just a typical mountaineering adventure. Looking back to 2006, a car accident had left him paralyzed. The doctors had given him the devastating news that he would never walk again. But rather than letting this tragedy define him, Jason chose a path of incredible determination and perseverance. Against all odds, he regained the ability to stand and walk. Atop the world's highest peak, Jason's achievement held significance beyond the physical feat of conquering Mount Everest. It symbolized a triumph over adversity, a testament to his resilience. He had made a solemn vow to himself and to use his legs for a higher purpose, to ascend the highest mountain on the planet. His May 2023 expedition to the Himalayan peak was more than a personal conquest. Jason climbed with a mission to raise funds for charity, specifically Spinal Cord Injuries Australia. The cause held a special place in his heart, and through his climb, he aimed to inspire others with his story of resilience and the unwavering spirit that led him to the summit. Before attempting the ascent, Jason spent 6 weeks in Nepal, acclimating to the harsh weather conditions and preparing for the challenging climb. Alongside him was Dawa Stephen Sherpa, the Asian trekking boss managing Kennison's climb, and the rest of the group. The weeks of preparation were crucial, considering the problematic conditions they would face. As they ascended from base camp, the harsh winds and weather conditions made the climb challenging, even during Everest's spring climbing season. Snow-covered slopes and dangerous cliffs tested the group, but strict protocols and proper gear helped them push forward. Finally, on the 19th of May, the group reached the summit. The breathtaking view from the top felt like a reward for their determination. Jason stood on the highest point on Earth, proud and accomplished, but an uneasiness crept into his mind. As they reveled in their achievement, Jason developed a throbbing headache. Nausea and shortness of breath followed, making his movements uncoordinated. The Sherpa, noticing Jason's distress, rushed to his aid. Before they could descend, Jason became unresponsive. With great effort, the Sherpa brought Jason to a place known as the balcony, a resting point for climbers at around 27,600 feet. Aware of the difficulty of descending with an unresponsive climber and nearly empty oxygen cylinders, the Sherpa made a difficult decision. Leading the group, they descended to Camp 4 to replenish their oxygen supplies and prepare for a rescue mission. However, the wind and weather turned harsher, making an immediate return to the balcony impossible. Trapped at a lower altitude, the group could only wait helplessly as Jason's condition worsened. Trapped in a dire situation with no chance of immediate rescue and altitude sickness intensifying, Jason took his last breath on the balcony. His body lay on the cold, snow-covered peaks of Mount Everest, joining the other 16 confirmed fatalities of the spring climbing season of 2023. News of Jason's untimely demise reached his family and friends, who mourned his loss. Yet, amidst the grief, there was no remorse. They recognized that Jason had lived an entire life and achieved the goal he had set for himself. He had reached the summit of Mount Everest, but the descent had eluded him. In the remote mining town of Chingola in Zambia, an unspeakable tragedy unfolded on November 30th, 2023. This date would be remembered, not for a milestone in the copper-rich region's history, but for a heartbreaking disaster that struck at the heart of its mining community. The day started as any other, with miners, the backbone of the town, heading to the open pit mines surrounding Chingola, about 400 kilometers north of Lusaka. These were not the large corporate-run mines, but rather informal operations, where men and women toiled tirelessly, digging for copper ore in the hope of scraping together a living from the Earth's hidden treasures. As the miners delved into the depths of the Earth, they were unaware of the impending danger. The sky, heavy with clouds, unleashed a torrent of relentless and unforgiving rain. The ground was saturated and unstable, and it could no longer hold. Without warning, the land gave way, and a massive landslide cascaded into the mines, a terrifying deluge of mud and debris. In those harrowing moments, the world turned upside down for the miners. Panic ensued in the pitch-black tunnels as the landslide engulfed them, each struggling to find a way out, their cries muffled by the earth that entrapped them. The mines became their prison, normally a source of hope and sustenance. Above ground, the scene was chaotic. Families and friends of the miners, who had been waiting for their return, watched in horror as the landslide swallowed the mines. The community, tightly knit and dependent on each other, rushed to the disaster site, their hearts heavy with fear for their loved ones. Rescue efforts began immediately, with local authorities and volunteers banding together, desperately trying to find survivors. The rain, however, showed no mercy, continuing to pour down, turning the rescue site into a treacherous landscape of mud and water. The rescue operation became a race against time and nature as hours turned into days. Undeterred by the challenges, the rescuers dug through the debris, holding hope amidst the growing despair. The miners' families camped at the site, their eyes fixed on the rescue efforts, each moment an eternity of waiting. Then, nearly a week after the disaster, a miraculous discovery was made. A 49-year-old miner was found alive, pulled from the debris, his survival a beacon of hope amid overwhelming sorrow. He was immediately taken to the hospital. His condition stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Yet this moment of relief was overshadowed by the unfolding tragedy. 11 miners were confirmed dead. Their bodies were recovered from the rubble. The community of Chingola mourned, their grief palpable in the air. These miners were not just workers. They were family, friends, and the very fabric of the community. The disaster at the Chingola mines was a stark reminder of the dangers faced by those who venture into the earth in search of its riches. It highlighted the plight of informal miners, often overlooked and working in dangerous conditions without proper safety measures. On that fateful day in November 2023, Chingola lost its miners and a part of its soul. The town was united in its grief, a community forever changed by a tragedy that took away more than just lives. It took away dreams, hopes, and the heart of a mining town.